Welcome back to Chapter by Chapter Classics, the short-form classic literature podcast where each episode walks you through a few chapters of a great book. Previously in Dracula, we introduced Bram Stoker's Gothic vampire novel, met the major characters, and explained how the story is told through diaries, letters, newspaper clippings, ship logs, telegrams, and recordings. In this episode, we're beginning the novel with chapters 1 through 4, where Jonathan Harker travels to Castle Dracula and slowly discovers that his host is something far more dangerous than a mysterious nobleman.
You know that feeling when you book a place to stay for a work trip and you just expect everything to function perfectly?
Oh, yeah. Like you pull up the reservation on your phone, you figure out the train schedule.
Right, and you just assume there's going to be a lockbox with a key. You walk in, the Wi-Fi connects, and you are just entirely in control of your environment.
Exactly. It's safe, it's predictable, it's entirely modern.
Yeah.
It's a very insulated way of moving through the world, really.
Mm-hmm.
We assume the systems we rely on, technology, transportation, basic hospitality, will always just hold up no matter where we go.
But what happens when you step past the edge of that mapped out, predictable world? Like, you get off a train, your phone says no service, the locals are looking at you with genuine pity, and
suddenly that illusion of control just evaporates.
Yes. You are completely at the mercy of an environment that operates by rules you don't even begin to understand.
It is the absolute definition of stepping out of the light and into the dark. And I mean, for anyone studying how to build suspense, it's a masterclass in stripping away a character's defenses.
Which is precisely the journey we are taking you on today. Welcome to this deep dive, customized especially for you as you prep for your chapter-by-chapter classics exploration.
Glad to be here.
And today, our focus is laser sharp. We are looking exclusively at the first 4 chapters of Bram Stoker's Dracula.
Right, and we should probably establish the ground rules right now for you listening.
Yeah.
There will be absolutely no spoilers beyond Chapter 4.
None?
We are going to experience this creeping dread exactly as our protagonist, Jonathan Harker, does.
Okay.
Our mission is to trace his descent from this meticulously planned, mundane business trip into, a suffocating, inescapable Gothic nightmare.
So to understand how far Harker falls, we really need to understand who he is when he starts out. If you're reading his journal entries in Chapter 1, he sounds like someone writing a very polite, slightly annoyed travel blog.
Yeah, he really does.
He's this newly qualified solicitor from England, traveling to Transylvania to handle some real estate paperwork for a nobleman named Count Dracula. And Harker is, he's the ultimate pragmatist.
He's constantly complaining about the trains being late the further east he travels.
Oh my gosh, yes. And he's meticulously writing down the recipe for paprika handle so he can share it with his fiancée, Mina.
It's brilliant on Stoker's part, honestly, because he's using that dry, observational travelogue style to anchor you, the reader, in absolute reality.
Right.
Harker's reliance on logic, train schedules, and recipes, it represents the pinnacle of the modern, rational, Victorian worldview. He thinks that because he has a map and a timetable, he is perfectly safe.
But the genius of the Gothic atmosphere here is how the landscape itself begins to actively resist that modern logic. You can feel the atmosphere shift the moment he reaches the town of Bistritz.
Oh, absolutely.
It's like he crosses a psychological border, not just a geographic one. He's staying at the Golden Crone Hotel, and when the innkeeper and his wife learn he is heading to Castle Dracula, their entire demeanor changes. They don't just look concerned, they look fundamentally terrified.
Yeah, they refuse to even speak the Count's name. They cross themselves. And Stoker escalates this dread so beautifully. It culminates in this frantic scene with an old woman just before Harker boards the coach.
Right.
She is practically hysterical, warning him that it is the eve of St. George's Day, the one night of the year when all evil things in the world have full sway.
I always find Harker's reaction here so frustrating, but also so telling.
Oh, totally.
The woman falls to her knees, begging him to delay his trip, and Harker just sort of, pats her on the head. He essentially says, I appreciate the concern, but I have a job to do for my firm.
Right, the sheer denial.
She actually forces a crucifix around his neck. And Harker, being a proper English churchman, finds it idolatrous and a bit awkward, but he wears it just to be polite.
If you are looking for the core conflict of these early chapters, that moment is it. It is the clash between modern British imperialism, which assumed its systems of law and commerce were supreme everywhere, and ancient primal survival instincts.
Wow, yeah.
Harker brushes off the local warnings because they don't fit into his spreadsheets. But the narrative is signaling to us that these peasant superstitions aren't just folklore, They are practical survival mechanisms for an ecosystem Harker just doesn't comprehend.
And that ecosystem really bears its teeth during the carriage ride through the Borgo Pass. It starts with the passengers on his stagecoach literally pressing protective charms into his hands.
Garlic, wild rose, mountain ash.
Exactly. They are making the specific two-finger gesture at him to ward off the evil eye. And then the sun drops below the horizon. The way Stoker describes the transition from twilight to darkness is phenomenal.
It really is.
The temperature plummets, the snow starts falling, and the physical environment just seems to close in around the carriage like a fist.
The isolation becomes absolute. And Stoker heightens this by introducing the rendezvous point. The stagecoach driver actually tries to save Harker. He tries to convince him to wait until morning, pretending the Count's carriage isn't coming.
But then it does. Out of the pitch black, this dark caleche pulls up. The driver is a tall man in a black hat, and his eyes are literally gleaming red in the lamplight.
So creepy.
When he helps Harker with his luggage, his hand catches Harker's arm in a grip that feels like steel.
And there is a fantastic, chilling detail buried in that scene. One of the terrified passengers on the stagecoach whispers a line from a German poem. For the dead, travel fast.
Oh, I love that line.
Right. And the strange driver hears it, turns, and just gives this gleaming, knowing smile. It's a moment of foreshadowing that tells the reader exactly what kind of entity we are dealing with, even if Harker remains completely clueless.
So Harker gets into this dark carriage, and they sweep off into the night. If you're charting the progression from travelogue to horror survival log, this ride is the tipping point. The driver keeps randomly stopping the carriage and disappearing into the darkness to mark these strange, ghostly blue flames that flicker in the woods, which Harker later learns signify hidden cursed treasure.
Yeah.
And then come the wolves. A literal ring of wolves surrounds the carriage, howling. The horses are terrified, Harker is terrified, but the driver just steps forward, sweeps his arms, and the wolves physically part for him. They obey him.
That establishes a crucial rule for this world. This driver has dominion over the natural world in a way no human being possibly could. He commands the apex predators.
Right, which makes Harker's arrival at the castle so incredibly tense. The carriage drops him in the courtyard of this immense, ruined, pitch-black castle. No lights in the windows, no servants rushing out to take his coat.
Nothing.
The terrifying driver unloads the bags and just vanishes. Harker is left standing alone in the dark, listening to wolves howl, probably wondering if his solicitor's fee is really worth this.
Seriously.
Until finally, the great heavy door swings open.
And we get our first real look at Count Dracula. He is an old man, clad entirely in black, holding a silver lamp. But notice his physical behavior.
Yeah.
He makes no initial move toward Harker.
Right, he just waits.
He stands there like a statue and delivers that famous line, "Welcome to my house. Enter freely and of your own will."
It is such an iconic quote, but when you look at the mechanics of the horror there, it's deeply unsettling. He is explicitly demanding that Harker make the choice to cross that threshold. It's a transaction of consent.
Yeah, he has to be invited, essentially.
And the second Harker steps inside, the Count grabs his hand. Harker notes that the hand is as cold as ice, more like the hand of a dead than a living man. And worse, Harker immediately recognizes that the Count's handshake feels exactly like the grip of steel from the terrifying carriage driver.
This is where Harker's journal-keeping habit becomes vital to the story. Because he can't rationalize the big picture yet, he starts obsessively documenting the bizarre physical details of his host during their late-night dinners.
He observes the Count with the precision of a scientist trying to categorize a new species.
Exactly.
And the physical traits he records are so weird and specific. Dracula has a strong aquiline nose, massive eyebrows that practically meet in the middle. His ears are unusually pale and pointed at the tops.
And the teeth?
Oh, yeah. He has sharp white teeth that actually protrude over his remarkably red lips. But the detail that always gets me, the one that feels so deeply, viscerally wrong, is that Harker notices the Count has hair growing in the center of his palms.
Oh, yes.
Not the back of his hands. The palms.
That specific detail is entirely purposeful. The pointed ears and the teeth are alarming, sure, but hair on the palms strips away the aristocratic noble veneer entirely. It hints at something purely bestial, an evolutionary regression.
Wow, yeah.
Stoker is layering these physical anomalies to build a subconscious revulsion. Harker even notes that when the Count leans in close, his breath is rank, causing a wave of nausea that Harker can barely conceal. His body is telling him he is in the presence of a predator, even if his Victorian brain refuses to accept it.
But the Victorian brain finally short-circuits during the shaving incident. This is the moment Harker's reality fractures completely. He's in his room, looking into a little shaving mirror he brought with him from London, because he's realized there isn't a single mirror anywhere in the castle.
Right?
He's shaving, and suddenly he hears the Count say, "Good morning." Right behind him, he feels a hand on his shoulder.
Which is impossible, because Harker was looking directly at the reflection of the entire room behind him.
Exactly. When Harker looks in that glass, there is no reflection of the Count. The door, the furniture, the wall, it's all there in the mirror. But Dracula simply does not exist in the reflection. Harker is so startled by this impossibility that he slips and cuts his neck.
And when the Count sees that trickling blood, his entire polite demeanor vanishes.
She just snaps.
His eyes blaze with a demoniac fury. He makes a sudden, violent grab for Harker's throat. It's a flash of pure, uncontrolled predatory instinct. But then, the Count's hand brushes against the string of beads holding the crucifix the old peasant woman forced Harker to wear.
And instantly, the spell is broken. The fury disappears. The Count smoothly warns Harker to be careful about cutting himself, refers to the mirror as a foul bauble of man's vanity, and just tosses it out the window where it shatters 1,000 feet below in the gorge.
Just casually throws it away.
And then he calmly walks out.
Now, if you are analyzing the psychology of this scene, it raises a massive question about Harker's state of mind. He has just been attacked by a being that casts no reflection, who then destroyed his property.
Hold on, though. This is where I have to stop and ask. At what point does Victorian politeness just become sheer stupidity?
That's a very fair reaction.
I mean, put yourself in his shoes. A guy with hairy palms who casts no reflection just tried to strangle you over a shaving nick. Why doesn't he just grab his bags, jump out a first-floor window, and take his chances with the wolves? Why does he stay and calmly write in his journal about how annoying it will be to shave without a mirror?
It highlights the invisible prison of social conditioning. The social contract of the guest and host relationship in the 19th century was practically ironclad. Harker is there as a representative of his law firm. His career depends on this.
Oh, wow.
To flee in the middle of the night without giving notice would be an unthinkable breach of professional etiquette. The true creeping horror of these early chapters is watching how Dracula weaponizes Harker's own polite professional conditioning against him.
He weaponizes his politeness?
He knows Harker won't run because the rules of polite society forbid it.
That is a terrifying concept, and it's that exact realization that slowly closes the trap around Harker. He starts connecting the dots. He realizes there are no mirrors. He realizes he has never once seen the Count eat or drink.
Right.
And then the final illusion of the grand noble household shatters when Harker catches the Count secretly making the bed and setting the table for dinner.
Because if the Count is doing these menial tasks, it means there is no staff. Harker is entirely alone in this vast, ruined fortress with this creature.
And the deductive reasoning kicks in. If there are no servants, that means the Count himself was the carriage driver. The Count was the one physically controlling the wolves with a wave of his hand.
The paradigm shifts entirely. Harker is forced to admit he is not a guest. He is prey.
Yeah.
Which brings us to the underlying dread of why Dracula has brought a London solicitor to his castle in the first place. This isn't just a simple real estate transaction.
Not at all. It is a massive, highly calculated operation. They have these late-night conversations in the castle library, and the library is packed with English books, maps, and directories.
Right. He's doing his homework.
Dracula is obsessively learning everything about England. He makes Harker correct his pronunciation, telling him, "I am content if I am like the rest, so that no man stops if he see me and says, 'Ha ha, a stranger.'"
Dracula has purchased an estate called Carfax in Purfleet on the outskirts of London. It's an ancient, gloomy property, heavily walled, with an old chapel, and crucially, it's situated right next to a lunatic asylum. He is studying the London Directory and Bradshaw's Railway Guide. He isn't just planning to travel. He is learning the vascular system of the British Empire so he can infect it.
Think of it like a computer virus. If a virus just smashes your hard drive the second it gets in, the antivirus catches it immediately. A smart virus studies the operating system's code.
That's a perfect analogy.
Dracula is studying Bradshaw's Railway Guide because the British Railway, the legal system, the property deeds, that is the operating system of the Victorian era. He's learning the code so the system's own antivirus social norms, police, solicitors like Harker, won't detect him until it's far too late.
That is the modern, insidious terror Stoker is introducing. The ancient evil isn't staying in the ruined castle in the mountains. It's buying property in the suburbs of the imperial capital. It is orchestrating an invasion through perfectly legal, bureaucratic channels.
And just in case Harker had any lingering hope that he was just dealing with a very weird, eccentric aristocrat, he gets the ultimate, undeniable confirmation of the supernatural. He's looking out his window and he sees Dracula emerge from his own window further down the castle wall.
Oh, this scene.
And the Count begins to crawl face down the sheer vertical stone drop over the abyss. His cloak spreads out around him like bat wings. Harker describes him moving just as a lizard moves along a wall.
It's a deeply repulsive image because it completely inverts the laws of nature. Gravity simply does not apply to him. It is the moment Harker's last shred of denial evaporates.
Yeah.
He explicitly writes the words in his journal, "The castle is a veritable prison, and I am a prisoner."
So Harker is trapped. His logic has failed, his social conditioning has made him a victim, and when you are a prisoner, you start making desperate, irrational choices. Which brings us to the ruined ladies' wing of the castle.
The Forbidden Zone.
Right. The Count had explicitly warned Harker never to fall asleep in any other part of the castle, vaguely threatening that there are bad dreams for those who sleep unwisely. But Harker, feeling a sudden surge of defiance, explores a dusty, forbidden section of the castle and falls asleep in a moonlit room.
It is an act of rebellion, but by breaking the rules of his confinement, he walks directly into the jaws of a completely different kind of horror.
Yeah.
This is where we meet the three vampire women, the brides or the sisters.
They don't enter through a door. They just materialize from the dust motes in the moonlight. 3 devastatingly beautiful women. But Harker notices 2 terrifying things right away. They throw no shadow, and their laugh. He describes it as a hard musical sound, like the intolerable tingling sweetness of water glasses.
This scene is steeped in complex Victorian anxieties about sexuality, gender roles, and power. Notice Harker's physical reaction.
Yeah, it's so weird.
He doesn't fight. He doesn't run. He is paralyzed. He describes feeling a wicked, burning desire to be kissed by those red lips, which is completely intertwined with a deadly mortal fear. He is entirely passive, eyes half closed in an agony of delightful anticipation as the fair-haired sister bends over his throat. He is reduced to the role of a helpless victim waiting to be consumed.
The horror here is the absolute loss of agency. He can literally feel the hard dents of 2 sharp teeth just pausing at his neck, and he does nothing. But right at that millisecond, Dracula bursts into the room.
Perfect timing.
Harker says his eyes are blazing with the flames of hellfire. Dracula physically hurls the women back with the power of a giant, furious that they touched Harker, and he shouts, "This man belongs to me."
It completely underscores Dracula's absolute, terrifying dominance. He controls the territory, he controls the supernatural women, and he claims total, unquestioned ownership over Jonathan Harker.
But the sisters actually talk back to him. They laugh and say, "Are we to have nothing tonight?" And to appease them, Dracula points to a bag he had thrown on the floor, a bag that was moving. One of the women opens it, and Harker hears a gasp and a low wail of a half-smothered child. Harker just faints from the sheer overwhelming horror of it.
It strips away any romanticism you might have had about the vampires. It is the grisly, undeniable payment. It shows you the stark reality of the food chain Harker has found himself in. And it massively raises the stakes for what Dracula intends to do once he reaches the millions of people living in London.
Which drives Harker to absolute frantic despair. As we reach the end of Chapter 4, the climax of his time in the castle, Harker realizes that the moment he finishes writing the final, post-dated legal letters to England, his usefulness is over.
The trap is completely shut.
The legal paperwork is done.
Faced with the certainty of his own murder, Harker finally abandons his civilized passivity. He climbs out his window and scales the sheer castle wall, ironically mimicking the lizard crawl he saw the Count do to break into the Count's locked room, desperately searching for the key to the main door.
He descends down a ruined, winding stair and finds an old subterranean chapel vault. And there, sitting in the dirt, are these massive wooden boxes filled with earth. And inside one of them is Dracula. But he looks entirely different than he did before.
He is in a state of rest, but a horrific kind of rest. He has been feeding.
His white hair has turned dark iron gray. His cheeks are full, his skin is flushed, ruby red, and fresh blood is actually trickling from the corners of his mouth. Harker describes him looking like a filthy leech, exhausted with its repletion. It's utterly disgusting.
It's so visceral.
And the terrifying realization hits Harker. This monster, bloated on local blood, is about to be shipped directly into the teeming crowds of London.
The sheer scale of the threat finally overrides Harker's polite, civilized nature entirely. He picks up a heavy shovel left behind by the workmen and swings it down at the Count's face with the full intention of destroying him.
But right as the shovel comes down, the Count's head turns in the dirt. His eyes open, and that paralyzing predator stare hits Harker. The shovel glances off, leaving only a deep gash on Dracula's forehead.
He fails. His one moment of physical agency isn't enough, and immediately after, the local Slovak workers arrive. They load the boxes of earth, including the one containing the sleeping Dracula, onto their wagons and drive away,
leaving him behind.
Harker is left completely alone in the locked, decaying castle, knowing full well that the 3 vampire women are waiting for the sun to go down.
He is literally standing on the precipice. Chapter 4 ends with Harker resolving that he will not remain alone as prey for those devils of the pit. He decides he is going to try scaling the sheer precipice of the castle wall to either find a way down the mountain or die trying in the rocks below.
Talk about a cliffhanger.
Right, and that cliffhanger is exactly where the opening section of the novel leaves us.
When you step back and look at what Stoker accomplishes in these first 4 chapters, it's a brilliant deconstruction of the modern mind. Harker is systematically stripped of his Victorian logic, his legal protections, and his dignity until he is reduced to an animal trapped in a cage.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, the ancient supernatural evil is actively appropriating modern systems, real estate deeds, train schedules, legal representation, to quietly invade Harker's home.
If you are studying this text, pay close attention to how Stoker builds that dread. He doesn't start with the fangs. He starts with late trains, strange recipes, and awkward social interactions. He lulls you into a false sense of security before springing the trap.
It creates a fascinating thematic foundation for the rest of the novel.
Yeah.
The characters will have to learn how to fight an enemy who understands their world better than they understand his.
It really does. So, as you head into your own chapter-by-chapter analysis, we want to leave you with one final thought to mull over. We've seen Dracula scale vertical walls, command packs of wolves, and exist outside the laws of physical reflection.
Yeah.
But ask yourself, is Dracula's most terrifying power actually his supernatural strength? Or is it his chilling, methodical patience? The way he can sit quietly in a ruined library reading a train schedule, perfectly content to orchestrate the doom of an empire through entirely legal, bureaucratic paperwork.
It reminds us that sometimes the most dangerous monster isn't the one howling in the woods. It's the one quietly buying up the property next door.
Exactly, the monster in the boardroom. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive into the unknown. Keep your crucifix handy, double-check your real estate contracts, and we will see you next time.
That's chapters 1 through 4 of Dracula. Jonathan's journey into Transylvania, the warnings he tries to ignore, the strange rules of Castle Dracula, and the terrifying realization that he is trapped. In the next episode, we'll move into chapters 5 through 8, where the story shifts to Mina and Lucy in England. A doomed ship arrives at Whitby, and Dracula's threat begins to spread beyond the castle. Thanks for listening to Chapter by Chapter Classics. If this episode helped you follow the story, follow the show in your podcast app so you don't miss the next chapter. And if you're enjoying this series, please take a moment to rate the podcast or leave a short review. It really helps other readers and students find the show.